Okay, examples 2 and 3 involve a new skill that you've never seen before. And it looks like stuff we've done before, but it is different. And what I want to get across to you is the structure that creates this new problem. We have a square root symbol here, and the square root extends all the way to here, which makes this radical object be inside the radical object. So the fact that there's a radical object inside another radical object makes it this kind of problem. So when you're looking at your homework problems and you start seeing problems like this show up, that's the structure you're looking for to establish it's this kind of problem. A radical object inside another radical object. Step 1. Keep this square root, the big square root, all by itself as a radical all the way through the process until it comes time to get rid of it. Then I want to take this, right now these are going to be the same number. In a few lessons we're going to change up a little bit and make them different numbers, and we'll have to deal with that when we get to it. But for right now they're going to be the same number. What I want to do is I want to create this same object here in a different form. And I'm going to use some different colors to highlight what I'm doing. This is 3, and this is the square root of 3. All right? What power is this being raised to, this 3 here? The first. What root is being taken?
The first.
No, not the first.
Second.
Second root.
Yeah.
Okay, when you start seeing some understood stuff going on here. So, no power means a first power. No number inside this little nook means a second root. Okay, so this also is a second root. We'll worry about that when we get to it. All right, so what I want to do is I want to write this expression here as a power product expression. A product of powers expression. I want to have 3 to some power being multiplied by 3 to some power. So 3 is to the first power. This 3 right here, this red 3. Again, there's no power written, so it's understood to be the first power. This blue expression is times, they're being multiplied, right? 3 to the 1/2 power. Alright, so that's job 1. Rewrite the problem. So instead of having a radical inside a radical, now we have a fractional power inside a radical. Okay. Our next objective is to get this whole object in here, this, into just 3 to some power. Okay, so I got my radical here, still here, and I need some power to go right here that represents the same thing as what I got boxed up here in black. Notice the outside radical just keeps on coming along for the ride. I'm not doing anything to it yet. Be patient. That is the very last thing we're going to deal with. Alright, so keep on writing the radical, radical, radical. Each time we're just recreating what this is. Change from radical form to fractional power form. Multiply these together. How do we multiply the same base? Add the powers. The rule says if we have x to some power times x to some other power, we're going to get x to the m plus n power. That's all that is. We have something to a power times something to a power. The rule says to add the power. So, in the case of 3 to the first times 3 to the half, we're going to get 3 to the 1 plus 1/2, also known as 3 to the 3/2. Alright? All I'm doing is adding the two powers that I'm looking at. 1 plus 1/2 makes 3/2. Alright? So, at this point, what kind of root is this? A second root, right? Again, there's no number written there, it's understood to be a second root. Alright? So, the final thing is, I want to get that radical gone. I just want to get a number to a power for a final answer. That's what I'm looking for in these problems. Some number to a power. Alright, and the way we make this happen is real simple. To get rid of this final radical, the root affects the denominator. Just like this became 1 over 2, right? This root became the denominator, affected the denominator. 1 stayed 1, the denominator became 2. Okay, here 3 is going to stay 3, the denominator is going to become this number times this number. So I'm going to get 3 to the 3/4 power as my final answer. So to get rid of that final radical, you're simply going to multiply the root of the radical times the denominator of the fractional power you have inside the radical to create a nice number raised to a power structure that means the same as that. If you want to verify that fact, let me get my calculator out. I don't know why I closed it earlier. Let's see. Be a good video here while we wait for the calculator to open. Think about our lives and how wonderful they are. So, the square root of 3 times the square root of 3. So notice this parentheses means that this whole thing's inside the square root. That end parentheses finishes the square root of 3. That end parentheses finishes that. Hit enter, equals that number. If I type in 3 caret parentheses 3/4, we get the exact same number. And we're making an equivalent object that just has a much simpler structure to it. Some number raised to some power. That's what our goal is on these problems. So again, the structure we're looking for again is a radical inside a radical. When we get that picture, I'm looking for this type of an answer. One number raised to a fractional power. When you get to that point, you're done.